Well, what's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to A Therapeutic Edge. We have got a very nice knife on the table. We really do. This is the Kubey, the KU322. And you get a lot of knife for your 40 to 48 bucks, depending on which scales you get. Some of you are going to acknowledge, and probably rightfully so, that this blade shape is very similar to the Koenig Arius. It is not the same. This is not a clone or a copy, but it does have a very similar blade shape. The rest of the knife, of course, is radically different. And I'll tell you, from a straight working perspective, this is probably one of the best blade shapes going. This thing is amazing. It is big. It is comfortable. It's just a great knife from Kubey. It really is. Now, I know you've probably seen this on other channels, but I finally got a chance to get my hands on one, and I'm very glad that I did. Let's talk about what you get, shall we? So the blade is D2. Kubey has long done a great job with their D2. This is no exception. I've done all my basic cutting with this, and I haven't even needed to strop it. You get 3 1/4 inches of cutting on about 3.5 inches of D2 steel. The grip area from behind the flipper tab is 3 3/4 inches, which is just perfect for my hand, right? So if your hand is my size or smaller, this thing is going to fit beautifully in hand. It does have a forward choil. It's a little tight. You can get your finger in there, but boy, you are right up against that sharpened edge, so you can use it. But for me, this is just a really generous sharpening choil, and it's not like they gave up enough blade to make it an issue. The overall knife from tip to tail is 8 1/8 inches overall. As I said, it is a full-size knife. Construction is pretty straightforward. It is G10. It is a liner lock, so it is G10 on steel liners. You've got a couple of barrel spacers in the back. Got a nice deep carry pocket clip. Now, while the clip is not inset into the scale, they do use the flat top screws, so there is nothing to interfere with this thing sliding in and out of the pocket. You have this very lovely Kubey pivot, which I really like. They changed to this about 2 years ago, and I really enjoy it. The G10 is chamfered down on the edges, right? You get a little bit of jimping right here where you'd want it. There is a fuller coming off the deployment hole, which is very nice. It's just a chunky, comfortable, great pocket knife for less than 50 bucks. And that is a total win as far as I'm concerned. These steel liners are really milled out. Unfortunately, I know you guys aren't going to be able to see that at all, but they've done a fantastic milling job on these. And so while it's not a featherweight, it's not nearly as heavy as it could have been either. The clip itself has actually got a little bit of shape to it, which is nice. They could have just done basic stamped steel and walked away, but there's some thought put into this, which is kind of what Kubey does lately. They put energy into their knives in a way that really shows. Now the edge, it is stonewashed. The edge on mine is dead nuts even all the way the length of the blade on both sides. The grind is perfect. Deployment comes in the form of this really sort of nicely rounded flipper tab, right? And it snaps open with authority. And you can spidey flick it or middle finger flick it using the hole. See if you can use the... Yeah, the fuller is buried a little bit too much in the scales. The fuller is more of a style thing, but you can see that even the way it's lined up, it's really nicely done. I've been saying a lot lately that somebody complained about my use of the phrase budget knives because it somehow implies, you know, junk. I have switched to the phrase budget friendly, and I'm going to stick with that. For less than 50 bucks, even just a few years ago, this knife would have absolutely ruled the world. Nowadays, well, there's a lot of knives that compete in this price range and market, but this one is particularly good. Let's take a look at the closed profile, right? So what do you get? Closed, we're looking at 4 3/4, right? So 4 3/4 closed. In the pocket, it is a reasonably chunky knife, so it's going to hang that way, including the flipper tab. You're looking at just a little over 1.5 inches. Not too bad, but again, if you were going to carry a pen or some other implement in your pocket, if you had full-size guy's jeans on, you'd probably get away with it. Detent on this is very good, right? So 1 being it falls out of the knife when you shake it, and a 10 being you can't even open it. Let's see if we can shake it out of there. Yeah, you can. So we're going to say this is probably a 5 or a 6, right in the middle of the range. Plenty of lockup. The liner lock, we're in at about 30%. So this knife has got a lot of life left in it. The handle shape is reasonably neutral, right? A little bit chunky, very comfortable. If you were going to cut up a million cardboard boxes, this would be an excellent choice. And because the pocket clip is very low rise, and because of where it falls into the meat of your hand, it's not a hot spot. You can feel it, but it doesn't get in the way. Of course, for draw cuts, this is perfect, right? Push cuts, it's perfect. It's just pokey enough that if you were going to give something a little prod to move along, as I tend to say, this would be an excellent tool for that as well. Let's do some size comparisons. We'll line the tip up right there. Here it is against our old friend, the Rat Model 1. As you can see, the Rat 1 is a little bit longer, but you get more blade on the KU322. Here it is against our old friend, the Bug Out. Lots of people have held the Bug Out. That's helpful. And you can see it's considerably larger than the Bug Out. What can we share it against? Oh, here it is against the Microtech LUDT, just for fun. These knives are very similar in length and actually have a kind of a similar blade shape, but of course it's much taller on the Kubey. And finally, just for funsies, here it is against the Orion Solaris from our friend David over at Blade Banter. These knives are very similar in size. The 322 is a little bit longer and you get a little bit more cutting. This is a great knife. I really like this thing. Let's weigh it out. I find myself curious with all that milling on the steel liners. Let's see where it falls. The action on this is really good. .9 ounces. Like I said, they are reasonably thick liners, even though they are milled out like crazy, and it is a nice thick chunk of D2. Unfortunately, my calipers have died, and I've not had an opportunity to replace them yet, but I'm going to say that that's probably 3 millimeters of D2. Look, budget friendly has changed. In the last year in particular, prices have gone, unless you're buying Sativians, prices have gone, or maybe some Ganzos, prices have gone from, $27, $28 up to below $50. And that's just the way it is. That's the truth of it. That's the new reality. I don't feel at all as though this knife for between 40 and, like I said, $48, depending on what scales you get, is in any way not a great deal. This is the KU322, and it is a superb pocket knife. I will put a link in the description where you can find these on Amazon if you're curious. I hope you've enjoyed this look at this knife. I know I have enjoyed having it. I really like it. I very much hope that Kubey comes through. Often what they'll do is they'll make a version like this, and then they'll come along and they'll make a higher end version. Here's hoping they do that, because I would absolutely buy one. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about this knife or any of my knives, feel free to ask down in the comments below. Hey guys, take care. We'll see you next time.